Yeah, the now that you bring up entertainment, I did want to get your thoughts on this briefly because it's funny to me how we entertainment takes up a big portion of the, I guess, the mental energy in this country for us, but they make up such a small portion of who's actually out here, right? There's more people that are like you, college professors, than are people in the entertainment industry, black college professors than are people in it. But for some reason, a lot of people try to identify us based on what celebrities are doing, right? As opposed to, I like to look to the Dr. Balls of the world. I like to look at the Dennis Kimbros of the world. I like to look at the other people. You know, even if I don't agree with every single thing you or them might say, I think you're a much better example to say, let's use him as the standard and let's compare ourselves. What am I doing in relation to what Dr. Ball is doing? You know, not what am I doing in relation to what Jay-Z is doing. That doesn't even make sense to me anyway. But, and not to say that we can all just do what you did and go get PhDs and masters. And, you know, not all of us are equipped for that type of battle or journey. But I think it's a lot more beneficial if we try to relate to you and people in your position. What do you feel about us and celebrityism? I'll just use that word, celebrityism in this country.
And while I appreciate the kind words, I mean, it's not just me. It's not just other. I think really powerful scholars who produce a good amount of academic scholarship and work that would help us. It's the grassroots activists that are discouraged from being known by the use of celebrity, and so what I think about that is that this country has always politicized celebrity. On the one hand, they created the star system so that they could create a handful of celebrities that they could re-plug into anything and be assured good sales. And then there's in that same process as a political equivalent in assuring that there's just a handful of people you need to manipulate or who would be easily manipulated into promoting a message that is beneficial to the political and economic elite of the country. So it's I mean, for a time was somewhat, engaging in some gallows humor by trying to make the point that if one surefire way to guarantee confusion is just by simply asking the question of a celebrity. And that's not to say that celebrities and athletes, et cetera, can't know a certain topic or can't be studied in a certain topic, but it stands to reason that if you want that expertise in anything requires time and dedication. And if your time and dedication is primarily put towards playing a sport or developing a craft as an actor or entertainer, you're just by definition of time, never mind training, study, intelligence, whatever, you're not going to be prepared to properly engage pretty much anything.
Right.
To be perfectly honest. So one guarantor of confusion is to simply say, well, if we want to have a question about the relationship between black people and Jews, let's ask Kanye and Kyrie Irving. And then just turn on the mic, turn on the camera, and it's guaranteed to lead to insanity. And then by doing it, it doesn't matter what they say or what people think about what they say. You've just guaranteed that they're not going to talk to me. They're not going to talk to any number of even more qualified people who are either academics or in grassroots community organizations. And they'll ask Tiffany Haddish what she thinks should happen on her way to Israel with the Middle East, as opposed to talking to any number of actual activists and organizers or scholars who might have something to say on the subject, but that would upset those who are sponsoring whatever program that is or whatever channel or platform or network is the host. So that's, again, by design. Malcolm pointed that out 50, 60 years ago. And it's just a brilliant, from the perspective of those in power, it's a brilliant strategy. Mm-hmm. It's media studies 101. You can almost guarantee the response or the range of responses you're going to get when you select carefully who you're asking the question. And it's just a slick little propaganda ploy. And then you can't be accused of overt censorship because you're not telling Kanye what to say. You're not demanding that he say one thing or another. You're just asking him the question. But going in what the range of responses is going to be. So,
Yeah.
and you know very well that if you really wanted to have an honest conversation about these issues, you wouldn't be asking them in the first place because, no disrespect, Kanye's been making beats and studying music and art for the last 20 years. Kyrie Irving's been perfecting maybe some of the best handles in basketball history. You just can't be that good at basketball and be a professional playing that many games and be as well studied on these subjects as some of the leading experts in the world. It's just not possible.
Right.
It's not a judgment of anyone's acumen or intelligence. It's just a matter of time and focus.
And and it's really, as you just pointed out, with your media studies background, it's a strategy being used. It's not accidental that they just keep popping up on the same type of people, especially even when a black celebrity who has been silent about stuff like Kyrie until one day they find out, wait, he has a polarizing idea. Now let's continuously ask him about this idea for the rest of ever. Now, and that's like you said, it is a good strategy. We just need to battle against it a little bit better. In terms of, go ahead, say what you were gonna say.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, in other areas of media studies, they call this message force multiplication, where you place. Usually, it's discussed in the context of making sure that you have military uh, officers be the spokespeople for a conversation of war in the media, and you just make sure that every major network or platform is interviewing this general or that admiral or this colonel, and then it doesn't, and then you guarantee that the message of pro-war is going to be multiplied. So it's the same thing in this case. It's in the same way they would platform military officials to get the military message. They'll platform confusion officials to get across the confusion.
And
Brilliant.
since you brought that up, speaking of Edward Bernays, right? How this is all in line with social engineering. I know you talk about psychological warfare and stuff like that. What do you think is the best way to, I guess, combat it, or to make sure that you recognize when you're kind of being engineered to feel a certain way? I understand different concepts about it, but if you could tell just the general public, how can we put on our tinfoil hat to block some of that social engineering radiation out? How can we
I mean,
do it?
the only real way to do it is to be in political organization and spaces where critical thinking is routine, and you can't do it by yourself. And it has to be, and it's an ongoing process and an ongoing back and forth struggle. So it's not something that can be done once, and you're. It's not like getting inoculated and then you're good. It's a constant struggle. And the so that's one thing. Another is I try to convey very quickly to people not to take my word for it. In fact, I dare people not to take my word for it, but to think about, or to try to learn a little about the decades and of time and resources put into studying how to manage public opinion. I mean, you mentioned Edward Bernays. This is somebody. I mean, this is 100 years ago already. This is somebody who uh, as he said, helped construct an invisible government that provided people the solutions to their problems, even as they are the ones causing the problems. And that's how he said you basically guarantee that a ruling elite stays unthreatened. He used the mathematical the mathematical foundation of the word reciprocal to talk about an equation whose uh, um, that concludes with the answer being one, meaning that reciprocity meant getting everybody on one accord. And he did not mean in the Parliament Funkadelic idea of the one universal groove. What he meant was the one universal thought of the ruling elite should be the dominant and singular narrative that everyone basically is forced to succumb to, whether they're aware of it or not. And usually they're not. So by design, by the way. So, and then I end up, and then we have to be more, we have to encourage that more of us be very critical of our preferences, as my former professor used to say. We have to ask, how do we know what we know, and why do we like what we like? And we have to be critical of what we like, particularly in this context, and ask, really, whenever I see something that I like, I ask myself, how did they get me? What did they do to push my buttons, so to speak? And because that's their goal, and that's what again, billions and billions of dollars and decades of research and effort from the military to the business community to all fat manner of intelligence agencies and everyone in between have been trying to figure out, as Bernays said, we're going to sell you presidents like we sell you soap. And how do you make Europeans white and Africans black, and people adhere to these national identities and local identities? How do you make someone from East Baltimore love and defend East Baltimore in the same way someone would claim and love and defend Israel? How do you do that? Well, all of this takes massive amounts of effort and study and manipulation. And this country, as Malcolm X said 50 years ago, has perfected the science of image making. And by now, Malcolm couldn't have even imagined the media environment we have today, the meticulously constructed environment that people think is somehow freeing them. No, as always, the internet has always been military technology. This is for them warfare.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be at all lulled into,
It's interesting that even talking about Bernays, and I think a lot of people who even care about the topic should look him up, because he was the beginning, essentially, of them saying, hey, this thing that we're doing with public relations to other countries, this psychological warfare, this will work amazingly in private business and public business. We should use it over here. And then, he got hired, the Lucky Strike, and he did the whole woman smoking campaign. And he got to the point where he was so effective at his job, companies wouldn't announce that they were hiring him, because that would set off red flags everywhere. It's just like he's just too good at engineering and figuring out ways to engineer this, just people, just humans in general. And I come from right now I work professionally in tech. So social engineering is big to keep your system safe and everything like that. So you really have to defend hard against it. It's not just tech. That's you as a community as well. You have to defend hard and try to realize, why is this message being delivered to me this way? If they don't want me to look it up, if they don't want me to look up what's being said about this, that means it's probably not a good message. Like you said, you challenge people to don't even just take my word for it. I say that all the time. I don't want you. That's why I'm telling you where I got the information from, so you can go read it yourself. Don't believe me about anything. Yeah.